What's going on? We back on the Men of Order Sports channel. I got Big Mike Rader again to talk about the Raiders game. We missed him last week, but like I said, Mike, I took the Seahawks. I was hoping maybe the reverse jinx would work and the Raiders would win. It worked out. So naturally, for you guys, for Raider Nation, shout out Raider Nation, shout out Wasted Talent, Big Mike, everybody, the whole crew. I guess I got to go Chargers money line on this one or Chargers +1. But Chargers +1 doesn't guarantee you a win because I could still push, or they could tie. So I guess I'll go Chargers money line for you. We'll get another Raiders win for you. What do you think about this game, though? I know you had some choice words for the Chargers before we went live, so I'm interested to hear what you have to say.
Well, first off, the Raider Nation thanks you for picking the Chargers. As far as this game goes, man, like I think it's kind of one of those things where you're looking in a mirror. The Raiders and Chargers are looking in a mirror, and I think that you get two things. What I've noticed is that the Chargers get way too much benefit of the doubt, and the Raiders don't get enough credit for what they're doing. So this is kind of a mixture of both. Now, we saw earlier this week that the Chargers were favored earlier this week, and they swung. The dogs swung as the days went by. If I break down the numbers, I'll explain why. The Raiders are 10th in points, but they're 26 in giving up points. But it's like a difference between the point differential is the Raiders are 24.1 points per game they're scoring, and the Raiders are giving up 25 points per game. Same thing with the Chargers. The Chargers are actually scoring less than the Raiders, 22.9 points per game, but giving up almost 26 points per game. And if you look at the yards per play differential, they're both at 5.9 yards per play. The Raiders, as far as giving up on defense, they're giving up 5.9 yards per play and also putting down 5.9 yards per play. So it's pretty much even. So the Raiders are playing more of a 500 team if you really wanted to break down the numbers. The Chargers, on the other hand, are giving up 6 yards per play, which is at the bottom of the league, and only putting up 5.2 yards per play. So they're at a minus 0.8. So, we're kind of splitting.
I was on mute. But I was just saying, I was going to chime in and say that's big. 0.8 doesn't sound like a lot, but in football terms, that's a
huge.
Pretty big difference right there. So go ahead. My bad.
And that's huge. And, if I use a formula, since we're kind of splitting hairs with these two teams, they're very familiar. I like to kind of dig deep in where I'm looking at for an advantage. So if I use the quick and dirty formula, which is basically yards per play differential between the two teams, the Raiders have a +8 on that net differential, and you divide it by 0.15. The Raiders should be favored by 5.5 points on a neutral field, but they're at home. So long story short, I'm going to pick the Raiders to win this game. I'm going to have them covering the spread of 1, basically. So money line, let's go money line.
Pretty much pick, yep.
Yeah, and then I am leaning towards the over-under. I'm going over on this one just because the Raiders and Chargers, you always get at least one shootout a year. The last game, it was 24-19, and, that's not really a shootout. So I think this game you're going to get that annual Raiders-Chargers shootout, somewhat in the, first to 30 wins kind of deal. So Raiders 31-27 kind of deal. That's kind of what I'm leaning towards on that one.
I hear you. Yeah, definitely. And to your point about the line moving and to the over, me and Chad do our early pick show. So go check that out. I'll put it up right up there. But go check that out. Also, we went through a bunch of games, Steelers, Falcons, the nice. Commanders, Giants, the Bills Patriots was last night. But we did do the Chargers Raiders because I took the over 50.5. I guess I jumped the gun because it's now down to 49.5. But you'll notice it did say Chargers -1.5. So that was on Monday. That was the early lines. And now we got Chargers +1. So the line is flipped. I guess people seem to agree with you. Here's a couple things I had listed also that go towards your point. So when it comes to the Chargers rushing game, it's bad on bad with that. Vegas defense, not great. Stopping the run. Chargers defense, they don't want to. Chargers offensively, they don't want to run the ball. They really can't when they do anyway. They're 30th in yards per rush, 30th in rushing yards in total. Vegas's defense is 16th and then 12th in yards per rush. But Where it favors the Chargers is their pass game. So they're sixth in passing yards, Vegas defense 26th. But to your point about the Chargers not getting a lot of yards per play and the Raiders doing pretty solid in not allowing a lot of yards per play, even though they haven't been great as a unit defensively. The Chargers, they're 27th in yards per completion, but sixth in passing yards, which is insane. So that means just like short, quick game. You know what I mean? And Vegas's defense, they're 17th in yards per completion, but 26th in total passing yards allowed. So they allow short underplays, and the Chargers are targeting short underplays. So in terms of props, I'm looking at some Chargers receptions props, not yards, but receptions, because I think it's going to be a lot of, dump offs, a lot of short, quick plays, a lot of quick game stuff. So I'm going to take a look at that right now. For whatever reason, we don't have any Keenan Allen props. I guess they're waiting on Mike Williams' official status. So I don't have anything to give you right now in terms of receptions, except Austin Eckler for like 6.5. I don't think I'm going to take that. That would be like last resort if I needed to, if Mike Williams was out and Keenan Allen is banged up or something, whatever the case is. But that is something I'm going to look at later on the week. So on our Sunday morning show, I will definitely confirm that. And then the Chargers are 8th in not giving up sacks, and the Vegas defense, they get no pressure, 30th in sacks per game. So I do like them to have success in the passing game. Maybe Herbert has a big day. His prop is set a little bit high though. I think it's at like 293. So that might be one where maybe you put him in for like 275 or 250 in a parlay with some other things. That might be a good strategy there, because I don't know about going. I think he can get 300 plus on this team. We just saw Geno go for like 328, I think, last week. But here's the thing. I'm not just going to completely shit on the Raiders here, Mike. When it comes to the Raiders on offense in total versus this Chargers defense, they hold the advantage. And if it comes down to a situation where Vegas has the ball last, similar to last week and the week before, I think they win because they'll dominate this defense. They are the Raiders offense, 7th in total yards, Chargers defense 26th, 8th in pass yards, Chargers defense 18th, yards, Chargers defense 28th, 10th in points per game, Chargers defense 29th in allowing points, 5th in yards per play, Chargers defense 30th, 4th in yards per rush, Chargers defense last, 15th in yards per completion, Chargers defense 21st. And Vegas doesn't really get sacked either. They're in the top 11 in terms of not allowing sacks. And the Chargers defense, they get no pressure. They're 24th in sacks per game. So, I mean, it feels like I just laid out a Raiders win there when you have that much of a difference on all fronts. And I agree with you on your points about the Chargers. Now, pre-show, you also said they're just overrated. They always get all the credit, and they maybe don't deserve it. I'm guilty of it. I'm one of the guys that every preseason going into the season in August and July, I'm like, oh my God, this Chargers team looks great on paper. Like, this looks like a squad here. They got all the pieces they need. This is the year they're going to make a run. I'm always big on the Chargers. They always let me down. Me down. So I completely agree with you there.
Raider Nation, they know better. We Raider Nation knows better as far as the Chargers go. There's a reason why we call them the chokers, but I'll leave it at that.
Yeah, that's good. So I see those differences there as being like, they'll be able to dominate offensively. But the Chargers are good for some big plays and some good drives. So I think they will keep it close, but I agree with you. This is like a first team to 30 wins. I do like the over. Obviously I took it at 50.5. So I'll definitely take it at 49.5. Get me a point back. Why not? But I love that. In terms of third down, Vegas's offense is 21st on third down. Chargers defense 26th. Chargers offense is 9th, and Raiders defense is 28th. So that's the only issue. Even if they dunk and dive and like throw little short game plays, they might be cranking out some long drives with a lot of first downs. If they're able to have that much success on third down, Vegas's defense hasn't been doing good in that department. They're also have not been great in red zone touchdown scoring this season offensively. They're 28th, the Raiders are. And the Chargers defense 14th in getting stops in the red zone, or at least forcing field goals. So I do like the kicking game here for Daniel Carlson as well. So that might be a prop I'm looking at.
That's a staple.
If they're giving me a good number though, that's the key, because since it's such a staple, they'll give me like minus 130, minus 145 sometimes. But if we're getting anywhere minus 120 or under, I think it's worth a stab. The Raiders kicked the 5th most field goals made, and they have the 9th most attempted. So even if he made all of them, he'd be way up higher even. And the Chargers defense, they allowed the 27th most and 29th most attempted. That's because they do pretty good in the red zone. Their defense can't do anything for the first 80 yards of the field, but once you get down there, they tighten up a little bit and force a lot of field goals. So I'll definitely be looking that way. I'm going to check right now if they do have a number up right now. But anything else you wanted to add there?
Yeah, I wrote it down for you, man. I saw it on Caesars. It was a minus 106 for
Okay.
1.5 field goals. So that's a staple. You gotta I would put that every week.
Yeah.
I would add that to any kind of parlay.
Lock that in.
That's a lock for every week. It's almost
and
like
as I'm looking, it's actually minus 105 on BetMGM. So if you care about that extra point and you got and you have BetMGM, go there. But yeah, I'm surprised they're not juicing that up at all. I guess they think that the Raiders might just be getting hot right now and they're just going to run through the Chargers and get a lot of touchdowns, which I do see potentially 4 touchdowns and 3 field goals or 2 field. You know what I mean? Like it's definitely possible in this game. We see how the Raiders play. They play better in their divisional matchups than they do in any other games. They show up ready to play. So yeah, no, I love that play. That's definitely going to be one that we talk about Sunday morning.
Yeah, and you kind of have to give props to Josh Jacobs for the game he had last week. You're playing the Chargers team who's given up an insane amount of yards per game with the rush. So you can look at Josh Jacobs to have another over whatever that over number is in yards.
91 and a half right now.
That's kind of high, but
yeah,
that's something to consider right there. I mean, considering that the Chargers are giving up about 100, it's about almost 150 yards per game in the rush. So, if they're giving up that many yards, I mean, that's something to consider.
Yeah, even if you don't want to lay that big a number on 91 and a half, even if you want to just target maybe longest rush for 17 and a half, obviously, you leaving yourself open for him to get 93 yards and his longest rush 16, but if that's the route you want to go, I don't think that's a bad play either. Like I said, the Chargers are last in yards per rush allowed. So it's not like they're getting stops against anybody. And when you think about it, like they're in a division, let me look who they've played, because when you look at who they've played, it could make that number look even worse. Obviously, they got the Falcons, the 49ers. Those teams like to run, but the Cardinals don't really like to run. The Chiefs don't really like to run. The Seahawks, they became a running team when Kenneth Walker stepped in.
They're pretty balanced.
They're pretty balanced. Yeah, the Broncos, they can't run. They would like to, but they can't do anything. The Browns, they definitely love to run. Jags love to run. Raiders, Chiefs. So they played the Chiefs twice. The Broncos, who can't get anything done. Texans can't get anything done. You know what I mean? And the Cardinals, they usually don't get anything done on the run unless they're playing the Chargers. So you look at they've been doing bad against some matchups that should favor them in the run department.
Yeah, absolutely. Also, a thing to consider is that the Raiders are getting their number 1 cornerback, Nate Hobbs, this week. So if you're looking at those receptions for like Keenan Allen, I wouldn't even touch it. I mean, considering that Nate Hobbs is probably going to be matched up, 1 versus 1 on that one. So receptions, I'll probably stay away from that whatever emerges, just depending on what the number is. But if it's like a 6 or 7, I wouldn't even 6.5 or 7.5. I wouldn't touch it.
Yeah, no, I agree. It's funny. The past 3 years of my sports betting, life, I used to smash on receptions props. Like if I went back and tracked all my picks from the past 3 years when I wasn't doing a show like this, I bet you my most profitable statistical category was taking receptions props, not yards, but receptions. But this year, man, I've had a bad time with it. I keep getting hooked. I'll take an over 4.5 and they get 4. I take it over 6.5 to get 6. I've been getting hooked a lot, so I might stay away. But I wanted to throw that angle out there because of the things that you laid out as well with the yards per play and the yards per completion. So but you might be right. Is Nate Hobbs officially back, or is he probable to return?
He's been at practice, but they haven't named 100% that he's going to play, but it's likely. He's been at practice all week, and he's been good to go. So he's been off of IR for a couple of weeks, so I'm assuming he's playing.
Gotcha. Yeah, I was just curious because I'm going to say maybe that was a reason that we don't have Keenan Allen or Mike Williams props also. Because usually they would at least put Keenan Allen with some kind of number up if Mike Williams is questionable return. Usually it's been there the past couple of weeks where we've been having with Chargers. The one caveat I'll give to the Chargers is it might, the whole problem with that organization might just be the trainer's room or something, because they do have the teams going into the season. You got to admit, even as a Raiders fan, you don't like them. you think they're overrated. I'll give you all that, but they do have talented rosters coming into every season, and by week 4, half of that team is on the
Just
IR
falls apart.
or
Yeah.
banged up. So something's going on there. It's been like that for the last 5 years. You would know it better than anybody. But I don't want to give them too much slack, but I do give them a little credit there. They've been playing well with what they've had to deal with. If you look at what Justin Herbert has had to trot out there as his weapons in the past couple weeks, before Keenan Allen and Mike Williams came back, especially, it was not great. And we slammed Austin Eckler for every stat category because that was the only person getting the rock for a couple weeks. And it was working because they really couldn't do anything else. But he was still having a little bit of success doing it. They were obviously one play away from losing to the Cardinals last week. Raiders were one play away from losing to the Cardinals too. So I mean, these teams match up well. I think it'll be a good game, kind of a shootout vibe, 35-31 type of range. But
this game always steals the show for the week. Like in the NFL, Chargers Raiders, at least once a year it steals the show. So this is one of those that might be game of the week. So,
I'll say it one more time just so the gambling gods hear it. I'll take the Chargers money line. So I'm guaranteeing you guys the Raiders win. Every time I take the Raiders, they lose. When I bet against them, they win. So I'm gonna do that for Raiders Nation. I'll take the hit. It's all good.
I appreciate it. Nation appreciates it as well, man.
Yeah, I'm gonna have Mike back for. Well, is there anything else you want to throw out on this game?
I do want to throw out first touchdown since that's kind of our thing, right?
Go for it. Yep.
I really do like the Raiders to come out hot, like right off the jump. Just a statement to the Chargers. Not saying that the Raiders are going to blow them out, but those scripted plays kind of sets the tone of the game. A statement almost like, "Hey, we're here to kick your butt," basically,
Right.
And so I think they're going to come out if they do get the ball first, or whoever gets the ball first. If say the Raiders get the ball first, they're going to come out swinging, giving in their best, play calling. And I really like Mac Hollins in a for plus 950 for good value in a 50-50 ball type of situation in the red zone.
That's a nice little flyer there.
Yeah. It's a flyer. And you go status quo, you go Josh Jacobs a plus 360 or Devontae Adams plus 575. You can't go wrong. But if you're looking for like some pretty solid value, I like Mac Hollins for a 50-50 ball in the red zone, or even in a goal line situation. So those are my three.
I can dig it. When it comes to first touchdowns, it's left so much up to luck and chance in a way where obviously you can give good assessments, but it's left up to chance at the end of the day. Once they're on the field, whoever ends up getting the play that scores. So when I am taking those, I like to go for the big odds rather than just the Josh Jacobs. Like I'll take losing the bet because I didn't take Josh Jacobs, even though he was like the easy call. I'll take that to take a chance on Mac Hollins because the couple times that you get that right, you're going to be profitable the whole season from taking him. So So I'm definitely with you. I like the Mac Hollins play. I'll tell you on that.
Yeah, and then on the other side, you got Keenan Allen plus 700 and Gerald Everett for the tight end at a plus 1100. So those are two that if it happens for the Chargers, those are two to look at.
And you've told us plenty of times about the first touchdown or touchdowns in general to tight ends against the Raiders. So definitely.
Unfortunately,
I'm with you.
You see it all the time, man. Cross route, corner route, and one of those two to the tight end. It never fails. It always happens. So, look for those.
Exactly. Hey, thanks for tuning in, everybody. Make sure you hit that subscribe button, hit that like button. All of Mike's information is in the description box as well. Go subscribe on his channel too. He's doing some film breakdown and things like that. Great work so far from the videos I watched. And make sure you follow him on Twitter as well, and his podcast on Twitter and everything. All that will be in the description box. We're gonna have Mike back to talk about the AFC West, other AFC West, fellow AFC West team, I should say, and Kansas City taking on the Bengals. So you can watch that as well. It'll be up on our channel in a little bit after this one. Peace.